Okay, let's come back together. So I got problem number 1 up here. Okay, everybody focus, focus. Problem number 1, again, these ones, there's a lot of subtle things going on, so you should be extra careful about making sure that whatever I have up here exactly matches what is in the problem statement. But I believe this is our problem number 1, and it has a lot of subtle things going on here. The very first few steps of this code is straightforward. It creates this dictionary with the keys and values. It's a dictionary that we've used before in labs and various things. And then we create this Alice points variable right here. And then as soon as I get to line 6 and hit next, see that this Alice right here is not inside of quotation marks. And so we get the name error as the exception that gets thrown. And again, to get full credit on one of these problems, you have to circle the correct statement up top. In this case, it would be that it raises an exception. And you also have to write the exception that got raised, that it was a name error right here. And if you didn't do both of those things, then it is 0 credits. So the number 1 is that name error got raised and it was an exception. If this Alice right here, if I edit this code and add that back in, add those quotation marks in. So now this Alice right here is a valid key into this dictionary. We walk through that now. We would go into this for loop, but then we would still have a problem right here when this V variable is 99, that this is one of the values. It's one of the values. In particular, it's this value right here. And you don't index dictionaries by values. You index them by keys. But there were no quotation marks, so it is a name error and not a key error. Any questions about that problem? Very, very common mistake, easy mistake to make when coding things up. Problem number 2, another subtle one here. So it's the same dictionary, and now we're going to get an error as soon as I run this line. And there's 2 possibilities of errors that you might think might happen. Here we have another thing that is not inside of quotation marks, this homework 1 not inside of quotation marks. So Python's going to think it's a variable and try to substitute that variable in there. And it's going to do the indexing based on that. We're actually never even going to get to this part right here, that all of these things, all of these subscripts always happen left to right, that you start with the grades, and then you figure out, before you even do this thing, before you even figure out if the square bracket makes sense over here, you have to figure out what the thing to the left of it is. And so we have to find the value associated with the key Charlie. And when we try to do that, we get this key error that Charlie doesn't exist inside of this dictionary right here. So again, when evaluating these subscripts, you always have to go left to right. Any questions about that problem? Okay, problem number 3. So creating our list, now we have this try except block down here. And so when we get to line 3 right here, we do the indexing, subscripting of XS at position 3. And there is no position 3 in this list. There's a value 3, but there's no position 3. So that would raise the index error. And we have the, so there it is, the index error right there. But we have an except statement right here, except index error. So we'll be able to catch that exception. We don't panic and barf it to the screen. We catch it, and we'll never finish running this line over here. You notice there is no result variable over here at all. But we will create the result variable right here when we run this line, result equals -1, and then print it out and we get -1. So this one's our first one that runs without throwing an error. And so you need to have circled that it did not throw an error, and then show me that it prints out the -1 right here. Any questions about this problem? Number 4. So similar to one we had before, but now there is this try except block around this right here. And we have the except. So yeah, that throws the key error like we talked about before. Now we have an except key error. Catch that and say our output equals oops, and we print out the word oops for number 4. And again, you needed to have circled that it runs without raising an error. Any questions about problem number 4? Okay, the last one, number 5, a long one, a lot of steps here. So again, the very first step, we define this function. We don't evaluate it. We don't execute it. We don't run this function. We just define the function with this def keyword, with the define keyword. And then we come down here, define the result variable as 0. And now we're going to try to do all of these things. So the very first one, results, is going to be plus bar of 1, 2, 3. Run that, go inside the bar function. And then the key spot where we'll be potentially getting errors happening is this assert. And so assert length of excess greater than 0. This is greater than 0, so we pass the test and keep going. And we'll return the length times 2. So our return value is 6 because the input was size 3. And add that to our result down here. Result now equals 6. Do that again for the bar function. This new input, 2, 3, still passes our assert. So we'll return the length of that times 2, which is 4. The return value right here is 4. There's the 4. We'll add that back to our result over here, add that back to the result. Then we're going to run a bar with an empty list right here, come back up into the function. Now we hit the assert. We do not pass the assert. The length of excess is no longer greater than 0. And so we get this assertion error. We immediately exit out of this function. We don't do anything else. We don't go down to this return statement right here. And we come back to right here. We have this try and except. So when we raise this assertion error, we will come down into the except block down here, press next, come into the except block. We will never get to this line 10 right here. Whenever you have an exception that gets raised inside of your code, it's going to stop at that point and not continue running anything else inside of the try block here. And so we got that assertion error. Now we pass is a built-in keyword into Python that just means do nothing. And so come down here and we print that the result equals to 10 for number 5. I think 3 of these were just copied verbatim from your quiz practice problems. Any questions about any of these quiz problems?
I have a question about one of the ones on the practice quiz.
I don't have an easy way to bring that up right now quickly, so maybe just after crossword questions.
This one is, it looks like it exists, but it didn't actually
Has to say
How many more quizzes are there?
It'll be one a week except Thanksgiving week.
Okay.
So however many weeks that is. Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Any other quizzes that I don't have here? Okay. For our next week's quiz, in general, I think students, well, the particular questions I asked about exceptions on this quiz, I think were some of the easier possible questions about exceptions. And understanding exceptions is super important for your debugging and actual programming. So the next week's quiz is also going to be an exceptions quiz, but the problems will be trickier than this week's quiz were. Yes. Question.
Will we get more practice questions for that?
Question is about more practice questions. I don't have more practice questions right now, but yes, on Monday I'll give out more practice questions with more tricky situations. Any other questions? Okay. So last time, again, we started talking about Reddit bots, and we started doing the Python code, just seeing how to read some information from Reddit using this pra library. And we'll get to that, more technical stuff like that in a little bit. But before we get to technical stuff, we'll take a little bit of a break from technical stuff and talk about your upcoming project a little bit, what you're gonna have to do. And actually, we won't get into the details of what you're gonna have to do, but there's this ethical, legal fact right here, frequently asked questions that I want us to talk about, getting us some more, like, I guess, motivation about why we would want to do this project before talking about the technical things. So the first, so again, like, big picture idea of this project is you're going to be writing your own bots that are going to be posting messages to Reddit about your favorite or least favorite politician, saying good things or bad things about them. The election's over, so not trying to influence any elections, but for whatever the next election is, 2-4 years from now, that you care about. And so one of the common questions people have about this is that like bots like this are bad for democracy. So why would we want to make them? And again, Reddit like actually encourages people to make bots. They have this library for doing it. And so I just want to quickly cover some of the cool bots that people make. Or some of the famous ones. This one is called the Stab bot, or the stability bot. And if somebody posts a video to Reddit that's like it's taken from a cell phone camera, but it's being held in your hand, so it's all wobbly, the Stab bot will automatically stabilize the video for you and make it, what? Yeah, so the question is, what's the original look like? This one is, so this is the original up here. It's not too unstable. At the beginning is where most of the, like this part right here, it's wiggling around a little bit. Then up there, it's pretty reasonable. Down here, you can see that the camera wiggles around quite a bit. It's a little bit more stable. Most of the ones that people really use this for are for like disasters or fight scenes. The camera operator is like under distress somehow, so the camera's really moving. But I didn't want to show people getting beaten up in class. This seemed more appropriate. So, so that's an example though of a useful bot. Somebody, you just summon this bot, make this bot take whatever video you have and do this processing to it by either posting it to a special Stab bot subreddit, just post the image there, and then the bot will detect that and do this processing for it. Or there's various ways that you can summon it to do it on a post that's elsewhere in Reddit as well. Another one, so auto TLDR, is if you have a a news article that's too long to read, nobody wants to read it, this bot will just somehow pull out like the key sentences from the article and generate a summary of it and post that summary. So all the many of the news subreddits on Reddit will have this bot active, and it'll post a comment with just whatever the highlight key sentences are the article, so that nobody has to click the link. They can get the basic idea just from reading this comment. Another one here is this tipper bot. This bot allows you to send cryptocurrency on Reddit. You just type in somebody's username and it'll send them cryptocurrency if they're signed up. And so if like upvoting and downvoting is not enough for you, you really want to reward somebody, you can send the right messages to this bot and it will send money to somebody. Oh, come on, Zoom. The Remind Me bot is another very popular one on Reddit, that if somebody's saying, I don't know, there's a big discussion going on and it's not finished, you want to learn about it 3 days from now or something. If you just say, add this, make a comment saying this, then Remind Me bot in 3 days time will send you a personal message reminding you to go back and visit that comment and see what it looks like. So there's those are all bots like that are general, kind of work everywhere on Reddit. A lot of communities have specific bots just for their community. So there's a subreddit called Legal Advice where people can post questions about like, hey, something bad happened and I want to know what are my legal options. And in order to know what your legal options are, you have to actually post like where you're from, that like laws in California are different from Arizona, which are very different from Mexico or China or elsewhere in the world. And so this bot just detects, is there a location in the post? Very common for people not to add that to their questions. And if there is no location mentioned, it'll send the person a reminder to add a location to their post. So a lot of custom bots like that designed for particular communities. Another one designed for particular community, this is the Bible bot, that if you post Bible verses, like the citation of them, then it will post the verse. So there's our Christianity community and lots of other religious communities that discuss things, and it's helpful to be able to have access to those texts very easily. Another sort of like meta bot is the good bot, bad bot. You can just vote, say if there's a bot that's on Reddit and you like what it does, you just reply to it saying good bot, and this good bot, bad bot voting bot will tally up how many times people have said good bot and bad bot and give you a score of that. There's whole communities on Reddit about building these bots. So here's BotWatch. These are the top posts from BotWatch, people discussing building bots, other people building bots, whether in certain situations they're helping the Reddit communities or they're hurting the Reddit communities. But so it's not like it's not a secret thing we're doing here. We're not somehow breaking Reddit. This is the main takeaway from this is that like this is something that that Reddit wants to have happen. And Reddit's not the only community that does this. Every community, again, every social media platform has one of these libraries for posting things, for making bots. So Twitter also has it. One of my favorite Twitter bots is this New York Times diff bot that just tracks the New York Times webpage and posts every time the New York Times changes one of their articles without adding a disclaimer that they've changed the article. So most of the changes are rather like minor changes. So here's an example of an extremely minor change. They just forgot a period at the end of their title right here. So they crossed out disagree, added disagree with a period at the end. A change like that, like, I mean, we probably don't care if they post a disclaimer or something that they forgot a period in their title. But some of the changes that they make are a lot more significant. So here's a screenshot of one of the changes that they made about a pretty major political event at the time, a train bombing in Brussels, that their original statement was the stuff in gray plus the stuff in red. So Brussels bombing suspect was a Moroccan citizen, relatively neutral sort of thing, but then they changed the title to the Brussels train station bomber was an ISIS sympathizer. Quite a bit different connotations there. And without bots like this tracking those changes, we would have no idea that the New York Times or other newspapers are doing this. Every major newspaper does this, and every newspaper has their own different. They didn't create this bot, but other people who are monitoring them creating these bots to track what changes they're making. I don't know, anybody have questions about? Yeah.
What would be the reason that people would dedicate a lot of time to creating bots, because they can't get too much gain out of it? Do you think people sell bots sometimes?
Question is like, why does somebody do something like this? What's the motivation? And so there, very little financial motivation for any of these examples here. There's none of these bots are bringing in money to the people, and actually this stab bot, it takes a reasonable amount of computation to do the processing like this, and so they're probably spending like, I don't know, at least $1,000 a month or so in computation fees. So why would people do this? The simplest answer is that there are actually people who just want to do stuff that's fun and improves the world. But all these people are like, this is also going on their resumes when they're applying for jobs, and all of these people who have written these bots, these are all very famous bots. I suspect they're getting paid quite a bit more because of that they were able to get a better job because of having these sorts of things in their resumes. These sort of like political-ish journalism bots like this, these are often done, created by people who have grants for like accountability watch groups or things. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question a little bit. Any other questions so far? Okay, so is it legal to develop bots? So yes, again, Reddit actively encourages users to create bots. One of your labs is going to require you to read these two, like the API terms of service and what's called Botikit on Reddit, and just agree to follow by those rules. They're pretty simple, but as long as you are following by Reddit's terms of service, then Reddit doesn't care at all. And even if you break these things right here, these are not like laws. That just means that Reddit will kick you off of their webpage, and you don't get arrested. There are some actual laws, very few of them though, about bots. So like in 2019, California passed this bill called the Bolstering Online Transparency Law. And the basic idea of that is that any political or commercial bot that has certain funding sources must label itself as a bot whenever it does communication on the internet. It seems like a reasonable requirement that bots be labeled as bots on the internet. So we've seen like Electronic Frontier Foundation before, but a lot of different legal sources think that that's pretty questionable from a First Amendment perspective, and that the bill, the definition of what exactly constitutes a bot is not clear. So it's not even clear that a law like this is constitutional at this point, but it's still on the books in California. And so that's one of the reasons why in this class, all of your bots have to have the word bot inside of them. I've heard that most bots are run by foreign governments like Russia. Don't you need resources and expertise to create a bot? And one of the purposes of this assignment is that, like, no, you'll see that you don't have to be a nation state to spread propaganda on the internet, that anybody who wants to, for whatever reason, can do it. It's really not hard. And then, so what about unintended negative externalities of this assignment? So at this point, we're just talking about reading from Reddit. We're going to get to writing to Reddit later today. And one of the things that you're required in this course to do is only post to we have a special CS40 subreddit, only post there so that basically you don't annoy everybody else on Reddit. And then finally, last thing, why do something like potentially controversial like this, raising ethical and legal considerations? It's actually required for our program here to be certified that you do things that raise ethical and legal questions. And so this thing here is more for like administrators to read, but there is like a code of ethics for the Association of Computing Machinery that says that we want students to have to wrestle with difficult ethical and legal problems, because when they graduate, they're going to have to wrestle with those things. And so this assignment is trying to introduce you to that. Any questions about anything at a high level from any of that before we get to technical stuff today? Okay. Maybe just one last comment. One of the things that always annoys me is people having very strong opinions about technical things like this and how technical like intersects with society without actually knowing any of the technical details about how bots work or things like that. And so you will have that knowledge about these technical details, and so you'll be able to have informed opinions on all of these questions after this class. Okay. Back to VS Code. Again, where we left off, last time we talked about how to log into the PRA library, that you never want to use this method up here. You never want to have your password inside of your Python code. All the tutorials that you see that we'll reference have this right here. But you never use this method of logging in. You always use this pra.ini that has all your information here. And that way your Python file does not include the passwords. And again, if you ever, if in your final submission for any of the upcoming labs or the upcoming assignment, if you include your password information in any way, either by including the passwords directly inside of Python or submitting to me your pra.ini file, then you will not only lose points on the assignment, you will get negative points on the assignment. That it is that bad of a thing to do, that companies routinely lose billions of dollars every year because people upload their passwords to the internet. And so you should be scared when you are finally like uploading things that it might contain your password, and you don't want it to contain your password. That's like the one thing for this assignment to make sure that you don't do is submit your password. Okay, and then we talked about reading data from Reddit, and we did a lot of discussion about using the PRA documentation. That's something that for your final assignment, you're going to have to reference. That we're going to be talking about various edge case subtle things in class here, but we're not going to be able to talk about it all. You're going to have to reference the documentation. And we talked about getting the actual submissions, ordering them in different ways, getting the information about the submissions like the title and the score and the author. And then we were focused on one particular submission, this one right here, and we're starting to look at the comments, how to get the different comments out of the submission. And so we're going to see more ways of doing that next. Again, the first thing to always do before we make changes to our code is just make sure that we can actually run our code as it is. So start by pressing the triangle button up here, and we will see that it actually throws an exception right now that it's not working. It was working at the end of last class, but now it's not working anymore. What gives? Why did that change? And we have this error message right here. It tells me that we saw this error message last time, this config.parser.nosection error right here. Actually, the reason, so all of this is part of the string that appears to the right of the colon. It just has the \ins inside of it. And so again, when you're reading these error messages, you come up, you have to find the line with the colon in it to find the actual like exception that got thrown. This no section error means that when I was trying to log in, up here, the prod.ini file, there is no prod.ini file with one of these sections bots. The section bot is the stuff in square brackets right here. And so if this right here doesn't exactly match this right here, you're going to get this error. But you'll also get this error if you don't have a prod.ini file in your path, in your current working directory. I type pw down right here, print my working directory, and I see that I'm in the my CS40 folder right now. But my prod.ini file right here is in my topic 10 folder. And so in order to get access to this prod.ini file, I need to change my working directory to the topic 10 folder, CD for change directory. Now, if I type pwd, I have my new working directory down right here. And now if I run my file, I can do that by pressing the up arrow until I get back to here and press enter. Then hopefully there's not going to be any error messages, no error messages. This information about that URL is getting printed. And this is where we left off last time. Any questions about anything so far? Okay, so one of the things that you're going to have to do for this assignment is loop over all of the comments in a post and determine which comment you're going to want to reply to. So we'll start by looping over all the comments in a post. So for comment in submission dot comments like this, comments, and then let's try print comment dot author equals comma comment dot author. So this comment type has a bunch of different things inside of it. Last time, actually, one last thing that we did last time before we run that code up there. So I've commented out the code up here. I'm going to rerun this by going into interactive mode. So adding the -i right here between my Python 3 and the name of my file sends me into interactive mode after running all of this code. And we did a lot of stuff in interactive mode last time, exploring what the prod library is able to do for us. So we had this submission type, and we saw that submission.comments gave us this comment forest right here. In order to identify the name of the type, you always remove all the things to the left of the dots, and then there's the comment forest right here. Sometimes there may or may not be extra information over here, but it's the thing to the right of the dots is the name of the type that you're working with. This is the thing that you would search for in the prod documentation to figure out what you can do with the comments. And we saw that if you did a list of submission.comments, then this gives you a list of all of the top level comments. And so coming back over here, this is the particular submission that we were looking at. And I'm going to scroll down here. Again, these are top level comments. This is an example of a top level comment. This is an example of a top level comment. This is not an example of a top level comment. Only the comments that are directly replies to whatever the original submission is a top level comment. And only these comments right here are the ones that are going to be inside of this list right here. If I take the length of that list, then 131. And we saw that if you wanted to get all the comments, that it's very confusing. It's submission.comments.list like this after the fact. That gives you, if I spell it correctly, the list of all of the comments. Let's go ahead and just take the length of that. And so 568 comments here with submission.comments.list at the end. Put list at the beginning, and you only get 131 because this is only the top level comments. If I do, again, so let's do the top level comments, XS like this, XS at 0 gives me an individual comment, XS at 0 dot author gives me the author of that particular comment. This very first comment, the very first top level comment has the author as none because the very first comment up here is deleted. Anytime a user deletes their account from Reddit, the author of all their comments will be turned to none. Or anytime a user deletes a comment, the text of the comment will change to deleted. But if we do XS now of 1, that'll give me that Osama bin Lefty to Veil of Maya. And over here, there's these, this the position 0 in our list, position 1 in our list, position 2 in our list, position 3 in our list. Straximus, we came back over here and looked at position 3, then that's what we would get. And so again, last time we were playing around with those comments, figuring out how to explore them and getting this information out of them, like the author, or if we did dot body gives us the text of the comments. Any questions at this point? Okay, so we're gonna see a couple subtleties about all of this that we didn't explore last time. And the first one of those is related to this for loop up here. So here, submission.comments, this is going to be that list of all of the top level comments that we had before. And we saw that with these comments, I could do the author right here, and it would print out the name of the author down here. So we're just going to do that same thing, but in a for loop, trying to do all of them like this. And let's save this up here, come down and rerun this. One of the frustrating things about working with, anytime you're working with something that interacts with the internet is you have this slower turnaround time about getting feedback about what your code's doing because it has to reconnect to Reddit every single time. And here what's happening is, so we get printing out a whole bunch of these comment.authors. At the top, we still have the none, Osama bin Lefty, Veil of Maya, these ones that we saw before. But then when we get to the bottom, the end of this for loop, we get this error message thrown. It's an attribute error. We know the cause of an attribute error in general now is that the thing to the right of the dot doesn't make sense for the thing to the left of the dot. The line that this is happening on is line 58 in my code, up here, line 58 right here. And so this is comment.author. It says the object has no attribute.author, so this thing to the right doesn't make sense for this thing to the left. And why is that the case? It turns out that all of these things up here were comment objects, but this thing down here, where we're getting this error, is a more comments object. I'm going to comment out this line right here, so we'll just verify that that's what's happening. I'm going to say type of comment equals, comma, type of comment. This type of comment, again, tells me what is the type of that particular variable. Type of 9 tells me that it is this int type. And so we're going to print out the type of all of the things in this list and see what we get. Rerun that. And we get lots and lots of comments, but then this weird thing called a more comments. What this more comments is referring to is if we come back to the Reddit interface, you can see that there's a lot of situations where it doesn't display all the comments in the interface. There's like a button right here saying that if you wanted to get all the comments that are replies here, you'd have to click this button right here, and then it'll bring up another web page with more comments inside of it. Similarly, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of this web page, and you'll have to pay attention to what's going to go on real quick. That when you hit the bottom, there was a load more comments thing, but then it's automatically loading more for us when you scroll. So at the very bottom of Reddit, it will automatically load the additional top level comments that the web page is not displaying for you, but if there's more comments that's a reply to something, then you actually have to press the link inside of the web page. So since that load more comments has gone away, since I already scrolled down, I'm going to refresh my web page up here, refresh it to make that happen again. Refresh this. And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and again, there was that load more comments button that appeared really, really quickly, and then it actually loaded those comments. And those buttons that say load more comments are what's referred to by this more comments button right here. For various technical reasons, all these social media websites won't ever display all of the content or all the replies to a particular particular submission in Reddit's case at once. Because there are some submissions that have hundreds of millions of comments, and it would just be a waste of their bandwidth and computing resources to send you all those things. If you want those things, you have to explicitly ask for them. And these more comments buttons right here are a way to explicitly ask for them. So the first important takeaway from this discussion for the purposes of your assignments is that anytime you're looping over comments, you are looping over comments, and this could come from a submission or coming from a submission dot comments, or the replies to another comment, or like a comment dot replies. You can't assume that what you're going to get is a comment. You can't assume that what you'll get is a comment. So this, again, yeah, the standard pattern people use in Python is that you have a plural thing that you loop over, then the variable name over here is the singular of that plural. In this case, with the PRA library, this thing over here is almost always going to be a comment, but not exactly always. And so if you're trying to do something like printing out the author or doing some information processing related to the author, what you'll have to do is do a try doing it, and then accept attribute error and print not a comment in this case. So we will try to print the name of the author for all of these comments, but sometimes we won't be able to, and so we will do printing the attribute error like that. Save that, come down here, rerun that. And now we can see that it's printed out the comments or the authors for all the comments up above, and then there's not a comment down here, which is what used to be giving us the error message. But because we are now doing the try accept, no longer an error message.
When it says none, does that mean they have to leave it there? Account
Question is, up here when it says none, there's a lot of these authors that where the author is none, and that means that whenever author is none, the user account has been deleted. It's possible for the author to be none and the text to not be none. So here we're printing out the author, comment.body equals comment.body like that up here. Save that, come down here, rerun it. It's possible and relatively common again so here we have an example where the author is none and the body still has the text inside of it, that just because you delete your account on Reddit doesn't mean that all the posts automatically get deleted. You have to manually go through and delete the posts that you don't want in order for them to be deleted. There are bots that will go through and do that for you. Another useful example of a bot, but Reddit doesn't automatically delete the text of your posts when you delete your account. So vast majority of time, the author is none, the body will still be something else. Good question. Any other questions? Okay, one natural question is, how do I actually get the comments that correspond to these buttons? So the button that Reddit clicked automatically for me and displayed all these things, all these extra messages, how do I get those inside of PRA? Or these buttons right here, like these load more comments, how do I actually get the text of all of these comments? The answer is that PRA has a built-in function for us for doing that. And so whenever you're looping over your comments like this, in order to make sure that you're looping over all of the comments, you have to first go through and press all of those buttons. There's submission.comments.replace more. This is the name of the function. The thing to the left over here, the submission.comments, is this thing right here. It's the web page that I want to actually click on all those more buttons, get all the extra comments, and then replace more function is going to go through and actually press those buttons for me. And if I save that, come down here, up arrow, rerun this, it's actually gonna take a little bit longer now to run because this line right here takes a while to happen. I'm going to pause this down here for a second, press Control-C to end that code. And anytime I'm working on code that has a lot of, that things take a long time to run, I put a lot of print statements in my code just to let me know where in my code am I actually observing the output of what's going on. So print before dot replace more, and then print after dot replace more like this. And now when I see these two lines appearing in my code down here, I'll know exactly that what I'm waiting on right now is just this replace more function to happen. Turns out that every one of these replace more functions, or every one of these buttons that you click over here to get a new set of comments, takes about 1 second for Reddit to process for you. And this website, or this particular submission, I think has 100 or so of those buttons that you'd have to press. And so that we'd have to wait here for about a minute in order for this replace more function to go through and click all those buttons. When you're debugging, when you are debugging your code, so this is a second important principle for making all of your code work. When you're debugging your code, you need fast feedback on what your code does. And so you don't want to be sitting around waiting for this replace more function to go through and click all those things all the time. And so don't call the replace more function. Once you think your code is working and you want to actually run it for the final time, once you think your code is working and you want to actually test it on everything, then you should include the replace more function call. So in order to get the actual correct results on everything, you will have to include this replace more function call, because without it, you're not going to get the all the results. But it takes a long time to do this, and so don't do it until you actually are ready to try everything on your final, that you think you have everything working. question.
When you say how long, or like how long it takes, is that like as long as a lab, like it takes like an hour, or is it?
So sort of, yeah, worst case is like on the order of 10 minutes. Yeah. One last thing about this replace more function, it takes a parameter called the limit. By default, the limit, I believe, is 10 or maybe 20. And this is the maximum number of those buttons that it's going to press. So on your final submission, on your final bot that's actually processing everything, your final bot, separate this out a little bit, that is actually processing everything needs to have the limit equals none. Yes.
Why is it called replace? So what the replace more function is clicking the button at the bottom that loads more comments?
So it's clicking the button at the bottom that loads more comments, and all the buttons that are inside, like replies, not at the bottom. So like this button right here, click that to get these comments right here.
Is there any reason why it's called replace?
Yeah, so the question is, why exactly is it called replace? And the answer is that we saw before that there was this more comments type. Submission.comments contained a more comments type. And so it's called replace more. The dot replace more function deletes these more comments and inserts the actual comments. So the replace is that it's deleting this thing and inserting the actual comments. The more is that the name of the thing that it's doing that deleting is the more comments. Yeah, good question. Henry.
Does this also happen with comment stack replies and not just submission.comment?
Yeah, so good question about what about if I have an individual comment and like something inside of here. When you do it to submission.comments, it will do it to all of the, we say it does it recursively. It does it not just to the top level comments, but to all the replies and the replies of the replies. It does it to all the children. So dot replace more does the replacement to all descendants and not just the top level comments. If you only wanted to do replace the comments for a reply, the replies is also a comment for us, so it also has this replace more functionality if you only wanted to do it to a small subset. But yeah, the main thing is that you only have to call this once for any particular submission that you're looking at, and you only want to do it not while you're debugging, but actually after you've done everything else. Good questions. Any other questions? Yeah.
I guess just to clarify, so like while we're let's say while we're debugging, around 10, or would that change it?
So while debugging, comment it out so that it doesn't even do it at all. Okay. And then when you're actually running it, then limit equals none, like this. Okay. Any other questions about any of this? Then the next thing that we'll go to today is posting things to Reddit. And I have this posting code already set up for us. Again, anytime you're posting things to Reddit from this class, you'll have to be posting them into this subreddit that's made like specifically just for this class. This URL right here that is in the prop posting file corresponds to, what did I do? Corresponds to this URL right here. And in particular, there's only one submission inside of this subreddit right now, and it has some just sort of random bot text that has been posted there so far. Here, what this code is going to do is it's just going to, in an infinite loop, not quite infinite, but essentially infinite, like for I in range, really big number, make a whole bunch of comments for us. And I'm just going to run this code right now, and you all should feel free to do the same. And down here, you can see that it's making this announcement that it has made a comment, I = 0. This .reply function right here is what's actually making the reply to this particular comment right here. And if I come back over here and refresh this, then we can see that there's a whole bunch of comments being added now onto Reddit, and they're all being replies to this first message right here. The reason it's this first message that everything is replying to is because it's submission.comments at position 0. So this is the very first top level comment right here. And then everybody's replying to that with this text down here. I'm gonna, okay, so I don't know, I've made about 10 comments or so, so I'll stop that for a second. And I'm gonna change this by, right now I have this time.sleep of 5. If I come back to interactive Python down here, import time.sleep, what this does is it just pauses Python's execution for however many seconds you specify inside of here. So this is saying that we're going to post one comment and then, post a comment right here, and then wait 5 seconds before going back to the beginning of the for loop and doing it again. And then inside of the for loop, anytime, again, when we're working with these sorts of programs that are going to be running for a long period of time, it'll be helpful to just be printing out some information, debugging down here, so I can see that every time I post a comment, it's telling me that it's done that, and the time that it does that coming from this right here will also be helpful for just tracking down that like your code's doing what you think it's doing. Question?
If you remove the sleep time on that, it would just post basically the numbers right away.
Yeah, so now the thing that we're going to do is we're going to try to be as abusive as possible to Reddit. That's here we were being sort of polite and waiting 5 seconds between each time we post. Now we're going to just post as fast as we possibly can and see what Reddit will do in response. So let's do that. Rerun this down here. And so we can see there's still some delay between these posts. We got some delay down here, about a 3-second delay between the posts. That it just took that long for Reddit to actually process this line right here to actually create the reply. But then what's happening down here is we get this exception, prod.exceptions.api exception rate limit. Looks like you've been doing that a lot. Take a break for 5 seconds before trying again. So in order to prevent bots from being like too ridiculously obviously annoying, Reddit makes this limit right here that you can't make more than one post every 5 seconds. If I just try rerunning this again, it's been more than 5 seconds, so we'll be able to make a couple of comments, but then it's gonna get me this rate limit exception again down here. The proper way to make comments as fast as possible, and this is something that you'll have to do in your final project, is posting comments as fast as possible. In order to get full credit on the assignment, you end up needing 10,000 comments posted. which you can only do if you're going like as fast as possible over the course of multiple days. Then what you do is you put your replies inside of a try except block. Try, and then again, every time we have an except, we put the exact particular exception down here that we're trying to catch. So it's the API exception. You always take the thing to the left of the colon over here. And then you can add a sleep statement like this, time.sleep of 5. It turns out that Reddit has a number of limits on, and actually what I'll do so that we know that if this is happening, add a print sleeping for 5 seconds. Turns out Reddit has a number of limits on how many times you're allowed to post. You're only allowed to post 1 comment every 5 seconds. You also have a limit on the number of comments you're allowed to make per minute and per hour and per day. And all of those things vary on an account basis depending on how much Reddit thinks your account is a good account or not a good account. This account that I'm posting this with right now, it's been used for this class for like 3 or 4 years now. So it's probably more flexible than your accounts. You might be getting a lot more of these sleeping for 5 seconds messages than my account is. Freya?
I was actually gonna ask the opposite, where like, if we aren't getting the sleeping for 5 seconds very often, is that just because I know laptops are probably slow, and so it's just like naturally taking 5 seconds?
Yeah, so the question is like, some people, yeah, you might be getting this more often than I am right here, or you might be getting it less often. You can see like how long it's actually taking for your comments to post by looking at the timestamps right here. So you can see that these two happened within a second of each other, and that's what's triggering Reddit to want me to wait for 5 seconds. If yours is able to post like, I don't know, 5 or 6 before it has to wait, that's okay. You can always just come over to actual Reddit on the web page and take a look to see that what's being posted and check how many comments there are. So we've already had 326 comments posted in this class. But yeah, as long as whatever you're posting is showing up on Reddit, then you don't have to worry about anything.
Okay, I was just because like if we, for the part where we're gonna have to do it like multiple times as fast as possible, like if it's taking more than 5 seconds, even without the time not sleep, how are we going to work around that?
Yeah, so eventually, if we leave this code running, then Reddit's going to eventually make you wait up to about 5 minutes to 10 minutes between posts. And so this waiting for 5 seconds, it'll print that like 20 times before it allows you to actually do the make a comment thing. I think I saw a hand over here somewhere. Henry?
I was having
Used by, because I don't think I'm just worried that even without the like sleep time, that the rate in which a comment will be made is very slow.
Yes.
Just like without
Still
any.
takes 8 seconds between each comment.
So is there a way to like speed it up?
Yeah, 8 seconds is plenty of time to be able to if you're averaging posting 1 comment every 5 minutes, then you're going to be fine on the final assignment. Okay, yeah, so we'll have a lab this week that is just doing some basic stuff with Reddit, getting you more familiar with that. And then we'll go into the details of exactly what your project is going to be next week on Monday. But that's it for today. And we'll see you all